Great. So now we have the recording in place. Again, welcome to all of you and the two CPC members that we have for today's training session, Shirley Guy from Hong Kong and Sam Ibeneme from Nigeria. So the plan for today's session is that I will give you a bit of background information about the setting, on how the ePoster areas will look like, to familiarize yourself with the setting. And then we will have a conversation with our two Congress Program Committee members that they can share any tips that they have for you. And I also have a short poll that we will put in between to get an understanding on your previous experience with World Physiotherapy Congress, etc. If you have any questions, please free to put these in the chat, and then the three of us will keep an eye on what's coming in. So this is I just lost US. I can't see you guys anymore, so I need to make sure that I've got these here as well. So this is the setting that you can expect at World Physiotherapy Congress. This is a typical ePoster area. We will have 4 of these in the exhibition hall. And there is, as you can see, there's a screen, there's a lectern, there will be a few chairs and also a few standing tables. So I'll just move on to the next slide so that you can see the visual for the setting at this Congress. So you can see we will have 4 areas with the chairs and some standing tables next to the chairs, as we learned from Congress in Dubai, that people also would like to stand and not always sit to listen to sessions. And then also this is a bit of an overflow area to allow people to join the sessions when it's more crowded, I would say. The only thing that is not correct on these kind of visuals here is the screen. You can see that this is in a landscape format, but we will have the screens in a portrait format. So the same as your posters will be uploaded. So that's really one of the big differences. But this is the setting. As you can see, there's also a small wall between the different poster areas to avoid noise spill. This was a bit of an issue in Dubai, but we have looked into this, and the setting of the microphones and the speakers will be set so that we have really minimal noise spill. So that's really here the technical provision for the e-posters. It's important that for you to know that they must be uploaded prior to the sessions. There will be no memory sticks allowed. Everything needs to be in the system beforehand, because then the technical team will really make sure that everything is uploaded in the relevant ePoster presenter area for your relevant time, and you only need to click on your presentation, so everything will be ready and available. Then as you saw in this kind of technical drawing, there will be a large portrait screen visible for the participants, and you will have a laptop that you can use on the lectern. There will be a microphone for the speakers. And what is important for you to know, you can magnify sections of the poster because the laptops, they are touchscreen. And as we all know, in posters, there are different sections. So if you want to, in your presentation, you can magnify a certain section to draw attention to this particular part of your presentation, because your presentation will only consist of the poster that you have and no additional slides, but you have the option to move around and magnify sections of your poster. So that's, I think, a really, if you have got any questions on the technical setup, please feel free to put these in the chat. So far, I cannot see any queries here, but please do so if you have any questions. So then let's move on to the next slide, which is on-site preparation. So once you have uploaded your poster, it's important that you, on the day, you check in at the what we call speaker preview room and review your upload. So to make sure everything is there as you need it in the format that you expected, etc. So this is just an additional review that makes sure that everything is in place as you expected and as we expect. The speaker preview room will have long opening hours already also on the day before Congress. So this will all be shared with you in advance of Congress. Then please make sure that you're at the relevant ePoster station well advance of your presentation to make you known to your chair so that they can be confident that everybody is there when they start the session. Also less relevant for you, but more for the chairs with whom we will have a training session tomorrow, is there will be no switching around of presentations. So as they are in the program, this is the order that presentations will take place, whether even if, let's say, one of the presenters cannot be at the session, there will be no swapping around. We will stick to the times that are in the program, because sometimes people will come for a specific presentation, and if this is moved within the session structure, then they might not be able to see the respective presentation. So don't be surprised if there's not an option to move the presentations within the session around. Then in case the session chair is not present at the respective ePoster station 5 minutes before the start of the session, please inform staff or volunteers. We do have backup chairs, and this can happen that the chair has been held up somewhere else or forgot about his or her duty as an ePoster chair. So in case there's no chair available 5 minutes before the start of the session, let us know, and then we will inform the backup chairs that we have in place for the sessions. So then this is an image also from our Congress in Dubai, going in the other direction. And this is where you can see how this looked, people sitting. And when I said earlier, we will have these tables around in the ePoster areas. There were quite a few people standing, and then it's more comfortable when there's these kind of cocktail tables around where people can stand to follow a presentation. So this is what you will expect at the ePoster stations. So then I would like to move on to the more to the outline really of the poster. As I said, there will be no slides for you. You can use your poster. The poster will be on screen. You can focus on different sections of your poster, but this is the only item that will be on display for your 5-minute presentation. So you have 5 minutes for your poster, and I've put here in a fairly big kind of banner, it is in portrait format. So really important for you to remember if you've been to World Physiotherapy Congress in the past. We used to have our posters in a landscape format, but this time it's really important to prepare your poster in a portrait format. This poster template is available online. If you would like to use it, you're also welcome to use the template from your organization, from your university, etc. But if you do not have a template from your organization, you're really welcome to use this one. Before going into the next point, Shirley or Sam, are there any points that you would like to add at this point?
Birgit, there are two questions in the FAQ Q&A part.
Okay, yes, I just
So
noted it's in the Q&A. Yes, thank you. Okay, so I can see it says here, I was unsure if ePoster means in-person attendance or over Zoom or can be both. So there's a very clear answer. All ePoster presenters need to be on site, need to be there in person. And as you can see the setup, we will have the presenters in front of the audience and they will present their poster in an electronic format, so not as a printed version, but really as an e-poster. So that's our e-poster presentation format. And then there is another question. The images you show display a horizontal landscape, the digital poster, but the instructions say to create an A0 portrait form. Yes, they indeed need to be in portrait, and thanks for picking it up again. But I think we've reiterated now a few times. These were the early drawings from the e-poster area. So this is why the screen in the image is still the landscape, but we all have portrait format. So that's really important for you when you prepare. And then someone said, chat is disabled for me, but I can see that you have found, sorry about the giving you the wrong guidance. So it's the Q&A where you can put in your questions. So thanks for flagging this up. Another question, can I participate with ePoster online as I cannot travel? No, then you would need to decline the poster and let us know so that we can make the necessary changes. So only presenters who are online. And we were pretty clear on this also when throughout the process of when we had the call for abstracts, etc. So then there is a query, would World Physiotherapy prefer receiving the e-posters in PowerPoint or PDF version? I think they wouldn't. That's a very technical question. And this is something that we can pick up and put onto the resources guidance that we have. But from what I'm aware, it needs to be a PDF so that there are no changes. It's really in this fixed format that you upload your poster in a PDF. I'm 90% sure, not 100% sure, but I will look into this and I make a note of this. But nonetheless, the system will tell you what you can upload, and the system will, if you try to upload a different format, it will not allow you to do so. What is the size of the display screen? So now this comes to inches. It will be, I would say, a fairly big screen. So to ensure that these people in the area sitting in these 4 rows and standing in this area can see what's going on in the poster area. I can't give you the inches, the exact inches that we have, but there will be a sufficiently big screen so that people really can see what's going on. And in addition, as I said earlier, there's the option that you can zoom in and magnify sections of your poster. So if you want to draw attention to a specific graph or to a specific section, you can do so. So I can see there's more queries coming in, but I would like to give the floor really to Shirley and Sam at this point. Is there anything that you would like to add before we go back to the questions and move on with the next points?
not for me.
Nothing from you, Shirley? How about you, Sam?
Yeah, I think that, Vijay, thank you so much. You have done a great job explaining this. But it's also very important that when you also prepare your posters, you remember to make sure that the headings are 36 points and 24 points for the content, and then make sure that also somehow the background has some contrast, black and white preferably. Some people may be colorblind, so it's important that you engage well with your audience. And it's important also that you look at some have also a backup, because you could have glitches during your presentation. It's possible. We are not praying for that, but sometimes it's also important you have either printouts of your poster or have some copy of your poster in your device, because it could be very helpful as well. So if you put this into perspective, I think it's going to also help you have a good presentation. And when making your slides, like we always advise, always try to have some kind of breathing space between the letters so that people can also engage with them. It's important that at this point we're discussing on the poster, you reflect on these things and possibly put in there the most important takeaway thing, the takeaway points or important highlights. Not everything will be on the poster because we have to avoid some clutter as much as possible. I think these are the important points that will also help you to come up with a very engaging poster. And remember, you can also, the poster has room for the QR codes. So you have downloadable materials, you can convert them to QR codes and also fix them on your poster so people can actually download them after. You may have an audio tape of your presentation or an audio version, an audio clip in MP3, MP4 format. You can easily convert them to a QR code and fix them to your poster, and people can engage with that. So always remember that this could be quite helpful because your poster is meant to just be a teaser, that will bring people more to your site or more to you after you have made your presentation. So once you make your poster more engaging, it helps to tell the story and helps to also guide you in making the points as you present.
Thank you, Sam. I think you brought up many very important points. I would like to pick up on a few of them. You mentioned the QR code. Yes, indeed, you can add a QR code to your posters for further information. Thanks for the helpful information on the font. We have more detailed poster setup guides online. So if you haven't seen this, please go back to this where we really provide also more details. Also with the color, I think that's really helpful, Sam, that you were talking about this. And then when you said have a backup, yes, have a backup with you in at Congress. But as I said, strictly no, there will be no data sticks permitted. So everything needs to go through the speaker support center. So you can have a backup to check at the speaker support center, but this will be the only way that ePosters can be added to the system. Because this is also what we will use the system to upload the poster to the Congress archive afterwards. So this is really so to have it in a central place where we can process them during Congress and then also after Congress. I think what you said, Sam, talking about the key outcome and really the key learning, I think is so important. And also the important note that you only have 5 minutes. So the chairs will really be strict. These sessions are half-hour sessions, these ePoster sessions, and it's just unfair to other presenters running over. So really make sure that you practice your presentation, what you want to say, what is really important, in addition to your poster, which will be available on the app. So people can see your poster, they can look it up. But if there's any really key messages that you would want to share in the 5 minutes, and actually your ePoster presentation is only a teaser. So this is only a very high level information that you can share, and then can have either further discussions afterwards, or people can look up the full poster information later on. Thank you, Sam. That's really much appreciated. So before moving on, there's a few more questions. I can see the question on the font size, I think, has been answered. And then there is a question from Ken saying, do you have recommendations for what we should present in our allocated 5 minutes? Is the information limited to only what is in our poster? So clearly, the poster is based on your abstract. The abstract has been reviewed. So let's say your abstract was on the first phase of your research project. Then you cannot suddenly talk about the second phase of your research project. It needs to be about the abstract and what has been submitted and the information around that. So I don't know, Shirley, perhaps you are more a versed presenter and researcher than I am. So any contributions to this question from Ken?
Totally agree with what Birgit mentioned because we usually for the poster, it is based on what you have submitted and abstract. So it's more appropriate to present what you have already submitted based on the abstract. So it will be regarding 5 minutes, I'll agree with what Sam mentioned. It's because the time is really short. And the most important thing is what you really want your audience know, for example, take-home messages. Because for the other thing, for example, details of the procedures or details of how you do the studies, the audience can simply use the QR code and they can use it and then can find it later on. And it's also very helpful with the Congress app. And actually the audience can continue through the apps and they can also find out more information there. So I think that is something which is important. And you can also need to think about for 5 minutes, time is really short. What are the key messages you want to let your audience know? But one important thing to take note is try not to get so many information or so much information in because your audience, they are from different countries and English may not be their first language. So it may take times for them to understand what you're talking about. So your speaking speed need to be one point that you need to consider as well.
Great, thank you, Shirley. So what I will do, I will now share a very small poll. So we have a couple of people online, and just to get an understanding of what your previous experiences. Says whiteboard. No, I don't need a whiteboard. I need my poll that I've put together. Let's see here. It's poll quizzes. Okay. So you should see two very short questions where it would be helpful if you could just let us know where you are. First of one is whether you've been to World Physiotherapy Congress in the past. And the other one is for us to understand whether you've been involved in ePoster presentations, so the format that we understand as ePoster presentations at this point. So I can see that all of the people have participated. So there's more people joining. So we have, I would say, roughly half of the people have have been to a World Physiotherapy Congress in the past. About 30% have been several times, and we also have the share of people who will be at Congress for the first time. And then the same applies for the ePoster presenters. I think that's helpful for us and the Congress Program Committee to know, to say, most of you say 85%, this is the first time that you're presenting an ePoster, and some have already some experience. So I don't think we need to share the results in detail. I think it's really just getting us an idea, and hopefully this will be helpful for you to guide the presentation for your ePosters. So what I would like to do, share a few examples from previous posters that we had at World Physiotherapy, and please be kind in your comments. All these posters have been presented, but we can still look at them critically from an outline perspective to see, okay, which ones are easier to digest and harder to digest. And this is really something that I would like to share with you. I will go back to the presentation, and then we can move on to the examples that we have. So move on here. Okay, so we talked about the presentation. We will come back to this. So a few examples here. As I said, from earlier World Physiotherapy Congresses, and perhaps we don't need to comment on this. I'll just leave them here for a few moments for you to take in. If you were a participant in an ePoster session with this kind of display, what you felt, and then we can have a conversation, a more general conversation when we come back after having seen all these examples. So there's another example from a previous poster, again, taking in what we've heard before on what Sam said on colors, etc., and how accessible a poster is. So this is another example that was presented at the previous World Physiotherapy Congress. And there's another example. And they are all in different formats, and we have preferences on how we would want to display the information that we want to convey. And this just gives you a few examples on how a poster could look like. And this is another one that was shared at a previous World Physiotherapy Congress. So I will stop sharing here for now again, and would like to invite Sam and Shirley, on the examples that we saw. What are your recommendations? Please, who would like to start?
Well, looking at the posters, I'm quite excited that Bridget, you brought this out because it's quite very helpful. Obviously, some of them, the previous ones, are a little bit cluttered. Some of them look a little bit cluttered, and the color, some were very colorful. But for me, I prefer the last one that was shared in the last Congress, the one you showed the last time. The color is calm and cool, and it's not so cluttered, and it's not so dramatic. So it doesn't take away my attention from the content of the poster. It makes me engage more with it than looking at the designs and being carried away by that and not paying so much attention, because some people are actually distracted easily. The attention span could be a little bit low. And so when you put things that are so colorful like that, it can distract them. I think the last one is more engaging for me. And it looks more like what may be quite helpful. But I think it's not so cluttered, and there's the breathing space. There's some room around it, but it can still be trimmed down further if one wants to do so. But to me, it is the best.
Yes. Thank you, Sam. So any thoughts from you, Shirley, before we go back to the questions that we have?
Actually, I think the visual impression is important, especially for the e-poster. It's good that right now we know that we can zoom in to see the details, but then if speaker you're not that familiar with technology and you're quite concerned that you may not be able to do it in a short time while you're speaking. So perhaps it would be good that we can consider using a bigger font size. And for some slides, because sometimes it's quite difficult for people to listen and read at the same time. So if you have too busy slide or the font size too small, sometimes it may distract the audience as well. So as we mentioned, we understand that a lot of information that you really want to present. There is other way that we can use, just like what we mentioned, the QR code. We can make use of that, and then you can have additional information there so that people can always have a look at your information by using the QR code and also through your abstract apps, abstract and also the Congress app.
Yes, thank you, Shirley. Yes, I agree, and I think what I will do, I will share the last poster that we had where you said, "Oh, this was really a helpful way to display the content. It's not, there's some information, there's really results that are there, there are figures there, but it's not overly complex. And I'm also aware, or I'm sure we are all aware, that your projects may be very complex and you've got a lot of information to share, but the more complex it is, the more important it is to break it down for the users and the audience, so that they can take away really very high level information and not the nitty-gritty details, because they would just be overwhelmed in 5 minutes with too many details. So in this slide, you can see also there is a kind of key take-home message, as Sam mentioned earlier, where it says physiotherapists should promote physical recreation to people with disability with whom they work. So clearly this is a very a take-home statement, and there is, as I said, some information available, but is in a, Sam, I think you used the word calm. So it's not overwhelming with too many colors, too many fonts, and not too crowded, where we also saw some examples where it's a very small font and just about getting as much information on the poster as possible. So what I will do, again, stop sharing here and go back to the questions that we have. And you might have further questions, so please put these into the chat, and then we go back to a previous point on the presentation itself. Perhaps we can explore this a little bit more. So there's a question, can the poster still be modified after submission? So once you submit it, it's in the system, and if you have any last minute changes, they can only be made in the speaker preview room. So you can't do it from home. So once it's submitted, it's there. The only option to make any final changes are in the speaker preview room. But once it's submitted, you can't change it from your end, from your computer. Then there is, thanks for the example. I can see that the subheadings on the posters are not aligned what were mandatory subheadings in the abstract submission. I think that's an interesting point. We can perhaps ask our 2 CPC members about this: background, purpose, methods, results, conclusion, and implications. Do we not have to follow these? I think that's a really important and interesting question. So what are our 2 Congress Program Committee members want to say about this? Who wants to go first? Sam, you're talking, but you're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think that it would be nice to also follow that pattern already prescribed by CPC in presenting the abstract when you're making your ePoster. However, you also need to know that you need to be more creative sometimes when you're making a poster. And so you may not rigidly follow that all through. You will bring some creativity that makes it exciting and more engaging. And so long as you maintain a consistent flow, through the poster that can, have some kind of logical flow and seamless narration of their story, both infographics and the text words, the text content, and so on. That is quite acceptable. And moreover, you don't need to put too many things on your poster, because when making presentations, you are expected to also provide more context and insight beyond the text in the poster. But if you become more creative with it, it will be helpful. So, in as much as we have provided, the CPC have given a guideline on how to put your abstract together, you can utilize the same thing, or you can also be more creative a little bit, so depending on the type of presentation you want to make.
Thank you, Sam. Shirley, any thoughts from you?
I think I agree with what Sam mentioned. Creativity is important, especially as the poster format. The most important thing is the flow. Even if you consider that you really want to be creative, you're not that prefer to use the subheading, just like the last slide that you see, but at least let people know how to read your poster. Because sometimes if you make it too scattered in different styles, and then sometimes it's so hard for people to follow. So for instance, when you're reading the examples, they may have this kind of format or this kind of format, making sure that easy for people to read out your information and easy to follow. Because 5 minutes is really short. If people need to listen to you and then read the information on the slide as well, sometimes not that easy. So I think that will be important, and the subheading use will be quite helpful for people to follow through. But again, it's kind of just like what Sam mentioned, there are some suggested guideline online, so you can also make use of that as kind of references.
Thank you, Shirley. Yes, I would say I think there's this what we call a traditional poster. So a traditional poster is really following the headings as they are in the abstract submission, which is good and fine. But there are also more creative ways, as you, Sam, and Shirley described, which are also acceptable as long as you have a story, a narrative, and really a red thread that people can follow through your thoughts and your project that you are introducing. Then there is another question. Could you repeat again how the poster should be displayed, vertical or horizontal? So it needs to be in a vertical in what we call a portrait format. So it is this, and I can show the slide again with the template to make sure that everybody is aware of this. I will go to this back in a moment. There's a question again, will there be allocated time for questions and answers from the audience in the ePoster session? So we have for each ePoster session, we have 30 minutes, 25, so there's 5 presenters, each 5 minutes, and then there's 5 minutes for some questions, which is not a lot. So it's not that each presentation has 2 minutes allocated of questions, as you may know from platform presentations. So there's a short 5-minute window for questions from the audience for all the presenters that were speaking in that session. So it is some question time, but not a lot. I hope this answers your question. So Shirley, Sam, have you got anything else that you would like to add at this point whilst I try to go back to the poster, to the slide with the poster format?
Pardon, Vijay? I didn't get the question.
Whether you've got anything else that you would want to add to the questions that were just brought up.
About the format of the poster. You already given a good presentation there. The only other thing I could say generally in terms of the presentation is in terms of presenting the e-poster, I think it's another area that we need to give them some tips that when making your presentation, you may have a very good e-poster, but presentation is also key. The two should go together, and that will require you practicing a lot and also before professional colleagues and maybe family members to give you some kind of constructive feedback, because we are going to be on the world stage to discuss your important research, and you don't want the important ideas to skip. And so you need to practice well, and then also maintain a stage presence by engaging in eye contact across the room, not just looking front, not just looking to your phone, but looking across the room as you make your presentation in order to, engage with the audience. Never also forget to draw their attention of your willingness to engage with them beyond that presentation as well. I believe that if you're able to remain calm and focused and use simple words and tell your story in a very clear, simple way, it will flow. And at the end of the day, you will have a very exciting presentation, which is the dream of every scientist.
It's nicely on what you're saying to the actual presentation, and a few tips and considerations, not from a technical perspective, but from a content perspective. And you already covered some of these. And really, this is what you said, Sam, about how much information can your audience digest in 5 minutes. So the research project for you might be something that you have been working on for the past 2 years, and this was your professional life. And imagine you need to condense this and convey it to your audience in 5 minutes. That's not an easy task, but really focus on what they might find helpful to take away and how to spark their interest. And what you said, Sam, it's really about this. This is only a teaser. This is only a very short encounter, but really spark their interest and have further conversations down the line. There's plenty of time. We will all be online, on site to have conversations, or people can look up your poster and then reach out to you. So this really covers the first 2 points. Shirley, have you got anything that you would like to add to on the content? And then, this point that your presentation can only be a teaser or a very small snapshot of what you've been doing.
Yeah, I think this 5 minutes will be important. So if really clueless, you can start thinking about the key take-home message first, and then you can also think about what are the most important things that you really want to let your audience know. Again, as we mentioned, the audience can always talk to you after the presentation or even using a QR code. I also see one question in the Q&A section, which is about optional QR code and bringing a few copies of the poster as a handout. I think either way is also fine. Really depends on how you want to deliver your content to the audience. It's good that with a QR code, it's easy to get access with a phone. But if people want to let the audience read something that is quickly in hand, so it would be good to have the handout. So it's just up to the speaker who want to how to spread out the message.
So coming back to the question of the QR code, when you said what in the question it says what should be included. So you can link from the QR code to your, let's say you've got a project page on your university's website or anything that supports the where there's more details on the project that can be found. So this is really the idea of a QR code, to have or I can't remember who from the two of you said this. There might be also, I don't know, a short video that you have available where you're talking more about the project. So you can put behind this QR code as much or as little information that you would like. So that's really up to you. This is just a gateway into further information on what you're doing. On the printed handouts, there is we at World Physiotherapy see this is a bit critical, because often handouts are being passed around and then they fly around. People have a look at them and leave them back. So we try to avoid handouts where we can. So the preference would certainly be a QR code or a personal conversation, or then also what people can do. Let's say, Shirley, you have a presentation I'm really interested in, then we can connect on the app so that I make sure that I remember your name and we connect, and we can then have a conversation either on the day or later on and share contact details. So the app also allows for these connections between Congress participants. Yes, I hope this answered your question, Moni. And there's another comment, like the link to clinicaltrials.gov. So I'm not familiar with the link to the clinicaltrials.gov, but as I said, this is up to you really what you would want to refer to, so that people can look up further details of your project. I think Shirley and Sam, you already said before, it's really about the key messages, what is relevant for the audience. And this is again on this slide, so it can't be said often enough. What is the element that is important for the audience to take away? And this should be really short and snappy. I don't know, any other thoughts from the two of you on how not to overwhelm your audience? We heard about the how to design your poster, that it shouldn't be too crowded, to have it in a calm yeah, font and not overwhelming the audience. You, Shirley, said earlier, making sure to speak slowly because your audience might not be, they might not be in English native speakers. Sometimes it's tricky when it is in a language that is not your first to listen and to read at the same time. So these kind of tips we already talked about. Are there any other tips on not to overwhelm your audience? Or do you think we captured them?
So perhaps some chart or graphs can also be used to replace the wordings. So that is also helpful for the poster.
Yes, yes, to have a simple graph that speaks more than numbers that you to have in your poster. Sam, any other suggestions on not to overwhelm your audience? We cannot hear you. You're on mute.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think you can also use pictures, just like Shelley said, you can use graphs, you can also use infographics, you can also use pictures, so long as those pictures are also pictures that you have the copyright or have free copyright, but they are able to convey your messages. I think the CPC and the World Physiotherapy has provided guidelines on how to use pictures in preparing your slides and the type of pictures and to ensure that the appropriate copyright permissions are met. So go for the one that are free, and you can also take photographs yourself and make sure that nobody's face is especially is shown, and you must have consent. There are ethical issues around it, but you can use other pictures that are relevant to tell your story. And that reduces the number of words that you have your, in your poster, but it tells a lot of story because, like if you say a picture tells 1,000 stories, you know, and speaks in 1,000 words. So I think that would be my extra contribution to this. That way you won't overwhelm your audience with so much words and information on the poster.
I can see that there is another question here. Is it correctly understood that the app will include a copy of the poster and not only the abstract? Yes, this is indeed the case. So we will have on the Congress app in the program, you will be able to access the poster in addition to the abstract. And this indeed also will be available after Congress for all the Congress participants. And then also once all the abstracts and presentations move to the Congress archive, they will also all be given a DOI. So we do not have a specific supplement in a journal where the presentations and abstracts will be published, but they will all receive an individual DOI, which is also helpful for you, I think, to add the DOI to any CV or any further publication record, so that you have really a link that you can refer to. Then there was a question, can you remind us when the submission deadline is for, you mean submission deadline for the poster upload? So I think there was a deadline to confirm your presentation last week. So you should hopefully have confirmed that you would be presenting and your poster, because this is why we said, okay, if we do not have a confirmation, then we cannot go ahead with the detailed planning. All the ePosters are now available in the program. You may have seen this online already, and the details, the abstracts will be released a week before Congress, and the posters will then be available after Congress as soon as they are in the system, really. So you can upload them fairly short notice unless you are shortlisted for one of the poster presentation awards. There's a specific timeline for those people. I think they already were asked to submit their poster so that this can be judged in advance of Congress. But for all other e-posters, this is really making sure that you have everything uploaded before Congress. The Speaker Service Center will be busy. I said earlier that there's fairly long opening hours, so it will open before Congress, the day before Congress already, with relatively long opening hours, but it will be busy. So we have, I don't know the exact numbers, but we have more than 1,000 posters that will be uploaded and several hundred platform presentations. So the earlier you upload your information and you feel comfortable with, and then you just need to go to the Speaker Service Center to check everything is fine. So I wouldn't recommend to make any changes once you're there. It's really just for a checkup once you're on site. Is the Congress app available now? No, it's not yet available. We wish it were. So it will be available 1 or 2 weeks before Congress, which is very soon. And we will clearly send out communication once we have it live. There's a few things that need to be still worked on from a technical side, but it will definitely be available before Congress. Then there is a question, can a short video be played while presenting, for example, a short video in PowerPoint repeated several times as we present? No. So the only format is the poster that you produce in an electronic format. So this is the only option for you to present in an ePoster session. So there's no additional PowerPoint slides, there's no videos, etc. So there's only one display on the portrait screen, which is your poster, and you can zoom in to sections of your poster, but there's no other formats permitted in this ePoster presentation. I hope this answers your question. Then there's another query saying, does the conference provide translators when there are difficulties in communication? So we do have an artificial intelligence translation tool that we will be using. Those who have been at Congress in Dubai may have used an AI translation tool already. We will be using a different one this time that we've used at our last general meeting. And this tool offers translation into several languages. And you will need to be aware that you need to bring your own headphones because the translation will be accessible through the app. So if you would want to listen to any presentation throughout Congress, this needs to happen through your app and through your phone, and you would need to bring your own headphones. The other option is that you can read. So let's say you forgot your headphones, you can see the translation on the phone. So as text, but you would not be able to listen to it without headphones. So this is the setting that is up there. So this means in the platform presentation sessions, poster sessions, so all the sessions that are being recorded, there is translation available. In the ePoster sessions, unfortunately, we do not have translation available. So this is just due to technical setup where we cannot have translation. What I can hear from your question, it is about the presenter. So when you as a presenter struggle to phrase your presentation in English, I would recommend to really think about what you would want to say, write it out, read it out, practice, and really to help you, even if you do not use English on a daily basis, by preparing it, writing it out, and then, if needs be, learn it off by heart. would perhaps be a suggestion. But I would also, I'm looking here at Shirley and Sam, whether you've got any other tips for presenters who are non-native English speakers. Shirley, I know you talked about this yesterday. Would you mind sharing your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I think the slides, I mean the poster did help because even if they're non-English speaker, and they can also read the text and also see the graphic, and then they will be able to understand what you're talking about. And the other thing is, please present your information in a slower manner so that they will be able to understand and be able to respond to you later on.
I can see, I think we have answered all the questions. So if participants here today have any follow-up questions, please send an email to congress@world.physio, so the email address that we're using throughout. And colleagues or myself are happy to advise in case there's any outstanding questions. What we will do, we will upload this presentation onto the resources page later this week. So that if you would want to go back to a section, you are you're welcome to do so. So thanks to all of you who participated for taking the time, and thank you to Sam and Shirley for sharing your experiences, and that's really much appreciated. In case you are also a platform or ePoster chair, there's another drop-in session tomorrow at the same time. Great. Then have a good day, and thanks to all of you, and thanks for the two CPC members. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.